Good morning, welcome to Breakfast with Louise Minchin and Dan Walker.
Our headlines for you today: the prospect of tougher and tighter lockdown regulations as ministers warn of further restrictions. One police chief confirms rule breakers are increasingly likely to be fined.
Boris Johnson is criticised for going cycling in East London at the weekend. Downing Street insists it wasn't a breach of the restrictions.
Good morning. A tougher stance on masks when you're out shopping. Morrisons and Sainsbury's are stepping up enforcement amid more reports of staff facing abuse.
A row over the poor quality of food parcels sent to children in lockdown who'd normally get free schools. Minister says she's urgently looking into those claims.
Good morning. There's lots to look forward to in the round of the FA Cup. Non-league surely get a home tie against Premier League Wolves, and Liverpool will play Manchester United.
Keeping busy during lockdown. We'll explore some of the ways people are filling their time in the face of the call to stay at home.
Good morning. It's a mixed picture out there today. Things are turning colder from the north with some sunshine in store, but further south, many of us can stay quite cloudy with outbreaks of rain. I'll bring you a full forecast throughout this morning's programme.
Morning to you. It's Tuesday, the 12th of January. Our top story for you: there's a warning that tighter lockdown rules and tougher enforcement could be imposed in England as hospital admissions for COVID continue to rise.
Ministers have warned that we are currently at the worst point of the pandemic. Meanwhile, one of England's top police chiefs says people who break the rules are increasingly likely to be fined. Our political correspondent Jessica Parker has more.
With hospitals under huge strain, people are being urged to follow the rules, to try and bear down on infections and admissions. This is 42-year-old Hanifa, whose condition worsened after testing positive.
It is loud and clear. Covid is serious.
National lockdown rules may be tough on many, but there are warnings that they could yet become tougher, especially if people don't follow the current restrictions.
There's been speculation about more restrictions, and we don't rule out taking further action if it's needed. But it's your actions now that can make a difference.
The supermarket Morrisons says it will bar customers who refuse to wear face coverings unless medically exempt. Sainsbury's is also set to challenge people without a mask. And writing in the Times, Britain's most senior police officer, Cressida Dick, said it was preposterous that anyone could be unaware of our duty to do all we can to stop the spread of the virus. We have been clear, she said, that those who breach COVID-19 legislation are increasingly likely to face fines. Labour's suggested tighter rules in England should be considered.
So we're in this extraordinary situation, if you like, where having got to at least as serious, if not a more serious position than in March of last year, we've got lesser restrictions in place, and we need those in place as quickly as possible.
Meanwhile, Boris Johnson, a keen cyclist, was seen on his bike in East London on Sunday, around 7 miles from Downing Street. Advice is to stay local when exercising, but a Number 10 source insists he was within the rules. Jessica Parker, BBC News.
And at 7:30 this morning, we'll be putting some of those points to the policing minister, Kit Malthouse.
2 supermarket chains have said that they will step up the enforcement of wearing face coverings in their stores. Morrison said customers refusing to wear a mask without a medical exemption would be asked to leave. Meanwhile, Sainsbury's said that it was putting trained security guards at the front of its shops to challenge people who didn't comply.
There are concerns this morning that the quality and quantity of food being provided to some children from low-income families as part of the government's free school meals pledge is inadequate.
The Department for Education has launched an investigation into the claims after parents began to post images of the food parcels online. Andy Moore reports.
Even though many children may not be at school because of COVID, the government is still committed to providing free school meals in the form of vouchers or food parcels. But some of those deliveries have been falling short of expectations. This is claimed to be the supply of food for one child for 10 days, issued in place of a £30 voucher. The company believed to have supplied it says an investigation is underway. It says the photo doesn't reflect the specification of one of its hampers. And now this example and other hampers provided by different companies have come to the attention of Marcus Rashford, the Manchester United player and school meals campaigner. He tweeted an image of a parcel said to be 3 days of food for one family, saying it was just not good enough. He added that children deserve better than this. When Marcus Rashford raises an issue, ministers take note. The claims can't be verified, but they have already prompted the Children's Minister Vicky Ford to say she will be looking into the issue urgently. The Department for Education said parcels should be nutritious and contain a varied range of food. It said there were clear guidelines which it expected to be followed. Some parents have been happy with the food hampers they've received, but the government will be keen to defuse this row before incurring the wrath of Marcus Rashford once again. Andy Moore, BBC News.
The FBI has warned that armed protests are being planned across the United States by supporters of Donald Trump ahead of President-elect Joe Biden's inauguration next week.
A huge security operation has been drawn up to prevent any repeat of last week's storming of the Capitol building in Washington. Here's more from our North America correspondent Peter Bowes.
Washington, 8 days before Joe Biden is due to be sworn in as the next president. Unprecedented security around the Capitol building where the National Guard is on patrol. From tomorrow, parts of the city will be under lockdown, and President Trump has approved a state of emergency lasting until the end of next week. Inside the Capitol, more political high drama. The Democrats don't want to wait to see the back of Mr. Trump. They want him out now.
Resolution calling on Vice President Michael R. Pence to...
It's a long shot, but they're hoping the Vice President and a majority of the Cabinet will agree to invoke the 25th Amendment, declaring Mr. Trump unfit to continue in office. He will be removed immediately. If that doesn't happen, the Democrats will move forward with articles of impeachment, accusing the president of incitement of insurrection, that he gravely endangered the security of the United States. Around the country, feelings are running high.
You know, if one of us was inciting a riot, we would get thrown in jail. So I think that somebody just because you're the president doesn't mean you are exempt from the law. And I think that he should be held accountable.
Hurry up and impeach him. But we're only hoping that he will never run for anything ever again.
Except from the police. Yes.
So lock him up.
While Washington debates the president's immediate future, Mr. Trump is planning to head to Texas to see part of the border wall that he promised to build. For his part, Joe Biden has been focusing on the coronavirus, receiving his second dose of the vaccine. He was pressed by reporters on whether he was concerned about the open-air inauguration ceremony next week.
I'm not afraid of taking the oath outside, and we've been getting briefed, but I think it's critically important that there be a real serious focus on holding those folks who engaged in sedition and threaten people's lives, deface public property, cause great damage, that they be held accountable.
The head of the National Guard has said up to 15,000 troops could be deployed in Washington for Mr. Biden's inauguration, while the FBI has warned that armed protests could take place in the capital cities of every state in the country over the next week. Peter Bowes, BBC News, Los Angeles.
The United Arab Emirates has been added to the UK's travel quarantine list following a spike in coronavirus cases. From today, anyone arriving from the UAE will need to self-isolate for 10 days. It comes after Scotland removed Dubai from its safe travel list. UK officials say cases have risen 52% in the UAE in the last 7 days.
Retailers suffered their worst annual sales performance on record in 2020. This is according to new figures. The British Retail Consortium says that while spending on food and drink at Christmas was the highest ever seen, there was a big slump in demand for fashion and homeware products. Many retailers have been badly affected by the closure of non-essential stores because of the pandemic.
Several gorillas at a zoo in California have tested positive for coronavirus in what is thought to be the first transmission of the virus to apes. Staff at the San Diego Zoo arranged for 8 of the animals to be tested after some developed coughs. It's thought the source of the infection may be a member of staff.
When it comes to unusual marriage proposals, you might have heard of people getting a pet to present an engagement ring. What about a romantic robot? Ben Hogan, not that one, and his partner, Sherry Dawes, live near Milton Keynes, where these high-tech machines are used to deliver groceries. And Ben was very clever. He arranged for one of them to bring the ring so that he could pop the question. There he goes. Sherry apparently is a big fan of robots, so the proposal went down very well.
Oh, that's really sweet. I like that.
There you go.
There was no hesitation, was there?
Were there any groceries in there? Was it just the ring? I didn't see if it was.
ring.
Was it amongst the pineapples and the like?
See the headlines as they happen and watch BBC News live in the app and get the full story with bbc.co.uk/news. Follow the story for all the latest with BBC News.